There is a moment early in the first season of South Park that almost nobody points to as the true beginning of one of the most important characters in the show's entire history. The episode is called Volcano. It aired in August of 1997. A man is sitting at a console in a small, dark room, hunched over a seismometer, watching a needle scratch across a piece of paper. He is calm. He is precise. He is doing his job. He is, at this moment, the kind of person you would describe as a serious professional. There is no wife in the room, no son, no daughter, no marijuana farm, no alter ego, no Nobel Prize, no prison sentence, no global pandemic. There is only a man at a desk, watching for tremors in the earth. The needle scratches. The man watches. Think about what that moment is in the context of everything that comes after. Think about the distance between that man and the man who, nearly 3 decades later, will admit to accidentally starting the COVID-19 pandemic by having drunken sex with a bat and a pangolin in a Wuhan bar in order to secure a marijuana export deal with Mickey Mouse. Think about the distance between that man and the man who will strangle Winnie the Pooh with a cable in a back alley in Beijing. Think about the distance between that man and the man who will stand in front of a bowling alley audience, defecating into his own pants under the stage name Steamy Ray Vaughan, or the man who will microwave his own testicles in order to qualify for a medical marijuana prescription, or the man who will build an elaborate secret pop music career under the identity of a teenage New Zealand singer by hiding a vocal auto-tuner inside a women's restroom at his geology office. Every single one of those things, and many more, will happen to the same man who sits in that dark room watching the needle. This is a story about a man who started as a background detail and became the main character. It is a story about a marriage that should have ended and never did. It is a story about a person who told everyone, including himself, that he was happy, and then one day, in the middle of an argument with his wife, admitted out loud that he had not been happy for a very long time. It is a story about how that one admission, made in the 7th episode of the 15th season, recontextualizes every single thing the character ever did before it, and every single thing the character would ever do after it. It is the story of Randy Marsh. And once you see what is actually underneath the character, you cannot unsee it. Welcome to Papertown. Get comfortable. This one goes deep. Let us get into it. The character's first appearance in Volcano is so quiet that most people who watched the episode at the time did not even register him as a recurring presence. He was not introduced as Stan's father. The script does not mention the relationship. He is just a geologist named Randy Marsh, brought in by the show because the plot required someone to monitor seismic activity, and the writers needed a name and a voice. Trey Parker named him after his own father, who, in real life, also worked as a geologist for the United States Geological Survey. That detail matters more than it sounds. It matters because the character was not designed to be a comedy engine. The character was designed to be a small tribute, a piece of personal biography stitched into the background of a cartoon. In Volcano, Randy Marsh is, if anything, the most emotionally stable adult in the episode. The town is hysterical about the volcano. Stan's Uncle Jimbo is drunk in the woods, trying to shoot every living creature in sight. Mayor McDaniels cannot keep straight the difference between a geologist, a gynecologist, and a geometrist. The boys are trapped on a mountainside with a mythical creature named Scuzzlebutt who weaves wicker baskets. And Randy, amid all of this, is the one person doing his actual job, checking his actual instruments, and arriving at his actual conclusions. He even saves the town, though his solution accidentally destroys Denver. On the audio commentary for that episode, Trey Parker has said that Randy's calm reaction to the volcano, sipping his coffee before telling anyone about the impending disaster, was based on how his own father would respond to almost any situation. The character, at his origin, is a tribute to a calm man. In the early seasons, Randy is barely there. He has lines here and there. He sits at the dinner table. He gives Stan a piece of advice once in a while, and then he disappears for episodes at a stretch. He is one of many adults in the show, no more important than Gerald Broflovsky or Steven Stotch. His function is to occupy the parental slot, to be a body in a chair. There is no inner life suggested. There are no obsessions, no breakdowns, no fixations. He is just the dad. You could, in the first 3 seasons of the show, delete him from the story and lose almost nothing. The show does not need him yet. The show does not know what he is for. And then, in the 2nd episode of season 3, something shifts. The episode is called Spontaneous Combustion. It aired on April 14th, 1999. The plot is, on its face, ridiculous. Citizens of South Park have begun bursting into flame. Mayor McDaniels needs a scientist. The town's most prominent expert, Dr. Alphonse Mephisto, is busy creating a turtle with 7 asses. So McDaniels turns to Randy Marsh, who is a geologist, and therefore wildly underqualified for the task of investigating combustion, but who is also the closest thing the town has to an available authority figure. Randy accepts the assignment. What happens next is the first time the show ever gives Randy a full plot to himself. He investigates. He discovers, through a leap of intuition that should not be physically possible, that the combustions are caused by people refusing to pass gas in front of their partners. The methane builds up. The bodies ignite. He proposes the obvious solution. The town starts farting freely. The combustions stop. Randy is awarded the Nobel Prize. A statue of him is erected in the town square. He becomes, briefly, the most beloved man in South Park. The show, for the first time, gives him the full hero treatment. He stands on a stage. The crowd cheers. His family beams. He accepts the applause as his birthright. And then everything goes wrong. The methane from all the farting tears a hole in the ozone layer. The town heats up. The citizens turn on him. He loses the Nobel Prize. He is stoned in the streets, forced to walk through the town carrying a small replica of his own statue on his back, denied by his friends, in a beat-for-beat parody of the Stations of the Cross. The show does not reach for the parallel casually. It draws every station. The whipping, the crown, the denial by a friend, the fall. Randy, at this point in the show's life, is still a secondary character, and yet the show has decided that the right visual vocabulary for his humiliation is the passion. And then, in a moment of insight that will become a recurring pattern across the entire run of the show, he figures out the answer. People should fart, but in moderation. The town heals. He gets the prize back. There is a moment in this episode that almost nobody points to as significant, but it is. It is the moment Randy is hiding in his basement, beating himself up after the town has turned against him. Stan finds him there, gives him a small pep talk, and Randy daydreams. The episode cuts into a strange, surreal montage of Randy and the boys being chased through doors by a man in a monster mask, set to a saccharine 70s style song called You and Me Girl. It is silly. It is throwaway. It is also the first time the show suggests that Randy Marsh has an inner life that does not match his outer life. That inside this man, there is a private, slightly delusional, slightly grandiose dream of being a hero in a different kind of story than the one he is actually in. That is not a small thing. That is the seed of everything that comes later. Every future Randy obsession, every future Randy delusion, every future Randy fixation is in some way an attempt to get back into the kind of daydream that plays during the basement scene in Spontaneous Combustion. He wants to live inside a story where he is the main character. The show will, over the next 25 years, grant him that wish and then punish him for it over and over and over. The show does not return to that idea immediately. Through seasons 4, 5, 6, and 7, Randy stays mostly in the background. He gets occasional moments. He plays in a boy band called the Ghetto Avenue Boys in season 4's Something You Can Do With Your Finger. And the show plants the detail that as a young man, he once had musical ambitions. The episode uses this detail as a comic setup. Randy tries to prevent Stan from joining a boy band because his own experience as a young performer ended, in his telling, in a disaster at a Las Vegas concert. He describes the act of taking the stage as a betrayal of something sacred. He weeps telling the story. That detail will sit dormant for years before it gets activated again. The show is not building toward anything yet. It is just leaving small pieces of clay on the table, in case someone later wants to make something out of them. A similar piece of clay is placed in the episode The Red Badge of Gayness in season 3, in which Randy leads the Confederate side of a Civil War reenactment and gets so drunk that he begins to believe he is actually fighting the Civil War. He organizes a drunken march on Washington. He is arrested. The episode plays the ridiculous historical delusion for comedy, but the pattern is already there in miniature. Give Randy a costume. Give him a role. Give him enough alcohol. He forgets he is in a reenactment and starts living as if the reenactment is reality. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this Rearisis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. Season 8 is the season where Randy begins to hover toward the main character position. He appears, in minor form, across many episodes. One of the most revealing small appearances is in the episode Goobacks. It is the 7th episode of Season 8. It aired on April 28th, 2004. The plot involves immigrants from the future arriving through a time portal and taking jobs in the present day for a fraction of the wage. When Stan first complains to his parents about it, Randy delivers a calm, liberal lecture. He tells Stan it is wrong to judge the immigrants. He tells Stan that the immigrants come from poverty. He tells Stan that the jobs being taken are small, menial jobs that nobody else really wants to do. He is reasonable. He is composed. He speaks in the vocabulary of tolerance. He sounds, in that moment, like the kind of father a child would want to have on an ethical question. Then he goes to work and discovers that a geologist from the future, who will work for less money, has taken his job. Within 2 scenes, he has become the spokesperson for the town's anti-Gooback protest movement. He joins a group of unemployed men who are trying to stop the future from happening by having sex with one another, so that no future generations will ever be born to travel back in time. He is interviewed on CNN. He is naked. He is surrounded by other naked, furious men. Next to him, in the same shot, stands his mortified son, Stan, fully clothed, trying to explain to the cameras that the answer is not to stop the future, but to make the future better, so the immigrants will not need to come. The episode uses the contrast deliberately. The father, moments earlier, was the voice of tolerance. The son, moments later, has to be the voice of reason, because the father has flipped into his exact opposite the instant his own paycheck was affected. The show is not subtle about what it is saying. Randy Marsh's politics are whatever his own inconvenience requires. That is a thesis statement for the character. The show is telling you, in Season 8, that Randy's apparent values are costumes. He wears the tolerant father costume when it costs him nothing. He wears the angry unemployed dad costume when the tolerant costume starts to hurt. He wears the costume that matches the room he is currently standing in. He has no resistance to changing costumes mid-scene. His body does not experience the contradiction as a contradiction. It experiences it as a new outfit. The first real Randy Marsh episode, in the sense that fans now mean when they say a Randy episode, comes later in the same season. The episode is Something Walmart This Way Comes. It is the 9th episode of Season 8. It aired on November 3rd, 2004. The plot involves a Walmart superstore opening in town and slowly destroying every other business. The boys try to fight it. The townspeople become addicted to the bargains. The character who shows the addiction most vividly is Randy Marsh. The show puts him in a specific scene that locks the character into place for the rest of the series. He is sitting at the dinner table with his family, surrounded by Walmart purchases, a new television, new plastic dishware, bulk buy ramen, in his words, enough to last 1,000 winters. Stan asks him how Walmart can afford to sell everything so cheap. Randy, mouthful, hands gesturing vaguely, gives an answer that essentially says he has no idea how the economics work, but he loves the result. That single line, delivered with that specific blend of confidence and ignorance, is the foundation of everything Randy Marsh will become. He is a man who does not understand the system he is participating in, but who enthusiastically participates anyway, and who experiences the participation as a kind of religion. Later in the same episode, when the town agrees to boycott Walmart, Randy breaks the boycott within hours because someone in his house breaks a glass and they need a replacement. He drives the family to the store at 9:30 at night. When they walk in, every other family in town is already there, having found their own equally flimsy excuses. None of them can resist. Randy, because the show has decided he is the avatar of the town's collective weakness, eventually takes a job there. He explains to Stan that the 10% employee discount makes up for the lower wage. He says this with complete sincerity. He is a geologist, with a doctorate, explaining to his 10-year-old son that he is going to abandon his career to work as a Walmart greeter because he gets 10% off. The show is not commenting on this. The show is not adding music to tell you how to feel about it. The show is just letting Randy say it, with his specific cadence, with his specific refusal to notice what he's actually saying. And in that scene, the character clicks into place. From this episode forward, Randy Marsh is no longer just Stan's dad. He is the lens through which the show examines what adults are. What follows over the next year is a kind of formal rollout. Season 9, which begins the spring of 2005, is the season where Randy Marsh goes from supporting cast to lead. The episode that does the heavy lifting is The Losing Edge. It is the 5th episode of the season. It aired on April 6th, 2005. The premise is straightforward. The boys are trapped in Little League Baseball, which they hate, and they are trying desperately to lose so they can get their summer back. Their parents, oblivious to this, are thrilled by every win. The most thrilled of the parents is Randy. The episode reveals that Randy has discovered something about himself that he did not previously know. He likes to fight. Specifically, he likes to get drunk in the stands at his son's baseball games and pick fights with the fathers from the opposing teams. He is trained for it. He thinks of himself, sincerely, as a competitive athlete in the trash-talking drunk dad league. Through a long series of escalations, he works his way up the regional bracket of dad fights, beat by beat, and eventually he comes face to face with his white whale, a massive opponent named Bat Dad, who wears a purple Batman cowl and a cape, and who is voiced by Dietrich Bader. Bat Dad is the father from the Denver team. Randy is terrified of him. He almost skips the championship game. The episode parodies Rocky in a way that is structurally rigorous. There is a training montage. There is a moment of crisis. There is a near defeat. There is a triumphant return. And in the final scene, Randy beats Bat Dad in a bloody fistfight on the baseball diamond, which gets the South Park team disqualified, which is exactly what the boys wanted. As Randy is led away in handcuffs, in his underwear, to the song You're the Best by Joe Esposito, Stan tells him he is the greatest. Randy, hearing this, jumps for joy. The episode freezes on him midair. Think about the structure of that moment. The boys cheering for Randy are not cheering because they admire him. They are cheering because they need him to do exactly what he is doing for their own selfish reasons. Randy, who does not understand that, takes the cheering at face value. He believes he is being celebrated for who he is. The misunderstanding is not played as tragic. It is played as a victory. But once you notice what is happening underneath the joke, you cannot stop noticing it. Randy Marsh is a man whose primary need is to be seen and applauded for things that other people would consider embarrassing. The show is not subtle about what it is doing here. It is constructing, in real time, the psychology of the character it is going to build the next 20 years around. The same season puts Randy in a related scene that says even more about him. The episode is 2 days before the day after tomorrow. It is the 8th episode of season 9. It aired on October 19th. 2005. Stan and Cartman crash a boat into the world's largest beaver dam, flooding the nearby town of Beaverton. The town of South Park concludes, with no evidence and against all logic, that the disaster was caused by global warming, which they believe is now coming for them within 48 hours. The town goes into hysterics. Randy, treated by the mayor as the town's expert scientist again, is brought in to lead. What he does in this episode is a kind of pure distillation of his psychological function in the show. He stands in front of a map. He draws on it. He gives a speech. The diagram he draws looks unmistakably like a penis. He does not notice. He confidently announces a temperature forecast of 70 million degrees below zero. Nobody questions it. He puts on full Arctic gear and leads a rescue mission outside in what is, in fact, perfectly mild weather. He and the other dads collapse from heat exhaustion and mistake their symptoms for the final stages of hypothermia. They are a foot away from a McDonald's the entire time. They do not notice it. The episode is a parody of Hurricane Katrina, of the climate change debate, of cable news cycles. But underneath the satire, there is a portrait of Randy as a man who, given even the smallest amount of authority, will perform that authority all the way to his own physical collapse, rather than admit he does not know what he is doing. He does not pretend to be an expert in order to deceive anyone. He pretends to be an expert because being an expert is the role the town has assigned him, and Randy Marsh's deepest instinct is to play whatever role he is given, with maximum enthusiasm, until the consequences become impossible to ignore, and often even then. The same season closes with the episode Bloody Mary. It is the 14th episode. It aired on December 7th, 2005. The episode is structured around two parallel ideas. The town's church has a statue of the Virgin Mary that has begun to bleed from a hole. People flock to it for healing. Pope Benedict XVI comes to investigate. The other half of the episode is about Randy. Specifically, it is about Randy getting arrested for drunk driving. The scene that opens it is one Trey Parker has confirmed in interviews was based on his own experience as a child being driven home by his drunk father. Randy picks the boys up from karate class. double fisting beers. He gets pulled over while trying to pee into a beer bottle as he drives. The officer arrests him. His license is revoked. He is ordered to attend Alcoholics Anonymous. And there, in the AA meeting, the show pivots into a kind of reoresis of how Randy's mind processes new information. He is told that alcoholism is a disease. He is told that he is powerless over it. He is told that only a higher power can save him. Randy, who Stan describes as a hypochondriac, accepts every word of this immediately. Within days, he has stopped trying to control his drinking, on the grounds that he has been informed control is impossible. He starts drinking more, not less. He shaves his head. He moves into a wheelchair. He starts performing, for himself, the role of a man dying of a terminal illness. When the bleeding statue appears on the news, he becomes convinced it can heal him. He has Stan drive him to the church. He cuts to the front of the line of people waiting for miracles, arguing that his disease is worse than theirs. The statue sprays blood directly into his face. He stands up. He declares himself cured. He stops drinking for a few days. And then the Pope, after personally examining the statue, announces that the blood is not actually a miracle. Randy, hearing this, immediately falls back into drinking. Because if the miracle was not real, then he was never cured. And if he was never cured, then he is once again powerless. Stan stops him in the parking lot of the bar and points out that he had, in fact, stopped drinking by himself for those days. That the higher power had nothing to do with it. That he had done it. Randy hears this and decides to never drink again. Stan, in a beat the show treats as the moral, points out that complete abstinence is also a form of being controlled by the substance. That the answer is moderation. The reason that ARC matters is because it is the first time the show uses Randy to dramatize an idea that will become his defining trait. The idea is this: Randy Marsh does not have a stable interior identity. He is a vessel. He becomes whatever he is told he is. If the AA meeting tells him he is a powerless addict, he becomes one. If the bleeding statue tells him he is healed, he is healed. If the town tells him he is a hero, he is a hero. If the town tells him he is a pariah, he is a pariah. The character has no resistance to whatever framing is placed on him. And once you see that mechanism, you start to see it operating in every Randy storyline that ever comes after. There is a specific kind of cruelty in that framing too, when you examine it closely. Because what Bloody Mary is really showing you is that Randy is a man who will take any available narrative about his own inner state, however extreme, and run it through to its logical conclusion. The episode, in its AA scenes, is not mocking alcoholics. It is mocking Randy. It is mocking the kind of person who will adopt the identity of a diseased alcoholic within a single meeting, not because the identity is true, but because the identity is available. The show is asking a question. If Randy is this suggestible, what, in fact, is his actual self? If he becomes whatever the closest available story tells him to be, is there anything under the stories? The show will not answer that question for another 6 years. When it finally does, the answer will shock Sharon, and it will shock the audience, and it will shock Randy most of all. Before we move on, if you're enjoying this re-eresis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. Season 10 gives Randy what is arguably his most quoted single moment in the entire run of the show. The episode is Make Love, Not Warcraft. It is the 8th episode of Season 10. It aired on October 4th, 2006. The boys are playing World of Warcraft. A high-level player keeps killing them. They organize a counterattack. Randy, having watched Stan play, decides to make his own account. He names his character Falcorn. He plays a low-level human, although the show's animators dressed him in starting warrior gear, which has caused mild confusion among Warcraft fans for years. What Randy does with his account is, for him, a complete and serious act of self-expression. He brags about it to his coworker at the geology office. He describes himself as a brave adventurer, exploring the Tower of Azora with a party of night elves. While he is mid-sentence, the same high-level griefer who has been killing his son's character kills Falcorn. Randy is annihilated in front of his coworker. He lies dead on the office floor in a pose so theatrical that it cannot be doing anything other than exposing the gap between how Randy sees himself and how he is seen by the world. The plot eventually requires Randy to deliver the sword of 1,000 truths to Stan. He hijacks a car. He drives to a Best Buy. He logs into his noob account on a demo computer in the middle of the store. He hands the sword to Stan. Stan picks up the sword and uses it to defeat the griefer, with the rest of the boys finishing the kill. The episode is, on its surface, a perfect machinima parody of an MMORPG. Underneath, it is something else. It is a portrait of a father trying to participate in his son's life by entering the world his son inhabits and being absolutely terrible at it, and treating his terrible attempt as if it were heroic, and somehow, by accident, actually being the thing that makes the heroic moment possible. That is not a small thing either. The show, even when it is making the cruelest jokes about Randy, keeps quietly insisting that his ridiculousness is not separable from his presence. He shows up. He participates. He embarrasses Stan. He helps Stan. Both things are true at the same time. The episode does not resolve that tension. It just lets it sit. Season 11 opens with a scene that is, by some distance, the most replayed Randy Marsh moment in the entire history of the show. The episode is With Apologies to Jesse Jackson. It is the first episode of Season 11. It aired on March 7th, 2007. Randy is on Wheel of Fortune. He has reached the bonus round. The category is People Who Annoy You. The puzzle is 6 letters long. The given letters spell out N blank G G E R S. The audience holds its breath. Randy thinks. Randy hesitates. The clock ticks. With seconds to spare, he says the word that the puzzle so obviously suggests on live national television. The audience reels. The correct answer flips around. The correct answer was naggers. The episode that follows turns Randy into, essentially, the most hated white man in America. He is called the N-word guy by everyone he meets. Strangers recognize him on the street. News crews park outside his house. He goes to apologize to Jesse Jackson, who, in the show's depiction, demands that Randy literally kiss his behind. Randy does. A photo is taken. Stan brings the photo to Tolkien Black, expecting that the apology is now complete and they can all move on. Tolkien tells him that Jesse Jackson is not the emperor of black people. Stan, in one of the most quoted lines from the episode, replies that Jesse Jackson told his dad he was. There is a thing the show is doing in this episode that is easy to miss because the surface joke is so loud. It is using Randy's misfortune to dramatize the gap between intent and impact. Randy does not say the slur out of malice. He says it because he is on a game show, with a clock running, with a puzzle that is screaming the answer at him, and because he is Randy Marsh, the kind of man who follows whatever script is placed in front of him. He does not understand, in the immediate aftermath, why what he did was bad. He does not understand, even after a long series of social punishments, what the actual nature of the harm was. The episode ends not with Randy learning anything, but with Stan finally telling Tolkien that he, Stan, will never understand what it is like to be on the receiving end of that word, because he is not black. That is what Tolkien needed to hear. Randy is mostly absent from that final beat, because the episode's actual emotional core was never about Randy. It was about Stan. Randy was the engine that drove the situation. He is, again, the vessel, the catalyst. Notice the pattern the show is building here, quietly, across seasons. Randy becomes the anti-Goobak protester because he loses his job. Randy becomes the Walmart greeter because he wants the discount. Randy becomes the Rocky-style brawler because the stands let him. Randy becomes the recovering alcoholic because the AA meeting said he was one. Randy becomes the N-word guy because the puzzle told him what to say. In every case, the situation writes the character. The character does not bring anything to the situation, except a willingness to commit fully to whatever framing the situation imposes. You cannot get him to stop, because there is no him underneath to do the stopping. Around this point in the show's run, the writers seem to have realized that Randy could carry whole storylines on his own. The Randy plots become more frequent. They become longer. They become, increasingly, the A plot rather than the B plot. The episode that crystallizes this shift is Overlogging. It is the 6th episode of Season 12. It aired on April 16th, 2008. The premise is a parody of John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath. The internet has gone out across the country. The Marsh family, like the Jodes, packs up everything they own and heads west to California in search of bandwidth. They arrive at a refugee camp. Each family is allotted 40 seconds of internet access per day. Randy, for whom this is an unbearable rationing, complains to a guard. He explains that he has not been able to masturbate in over 2 weeks. He explains that he cannot just go back to Playboy because the internet has trained him to find any specific fetish on demand, and he can no longer process anything more general than that. The guard refuses to help. The episode then escalates into a scene that Trey Parker has called, on commentary, the most offensive shot in the history of South Park. Randy sneaks into the locked room where the camp's only working computer is stored. He looks up extreme pornographic content. He masturbates at increasing volume. People hear him from outside the building. They break in. They find him sitting in front of the computer, covered head to toe in his own semen, surrounded by more of it. He looks up at them and explains calmly that a spooky ghost has slimed him with ectoplasm. That single moment, the ectoplasm explanation, is one of the most concentrated articulations of Randy Marsh's psychological function in the entire show. He has been caught in the most humiliating possible position, with no plausible deniability available, and his immediate response is not to confess, not to apologize, not even to be embarrassed. His immediate response is to invent, in real time, a supernatural cover story that is more absurd than the truth. He believes he might get away with it. He has no fear of being disbelieved. He has no shame mechanism to interrupt him. He just generates a lie that is roughly the right shape of an excuse and offers it with a straight face. Once you see that, you start to see it everywhere in the character. Randy is a person who never stops talking himself into the next move, no matter how indefensible the previous one was. The ectoplasm is not a one-off bit. It is the operating system. Every subsequent Randy lie, every subsequent Randy cover-up, every subsequent Randy self-serving reframing of his own behavior is another version of the ectoplasm story. A spooky ghost did it. An angry economy did it. A medical condition did it. Global warming did it. China did it. ChatGPT did it. It is always something other than Randy. Randy, in Randy's telling, is always a bystander to Randy's own life. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this re-resus, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. Season 13 gives Randy 2 of the largest plots he ever carries. The first is Margaritaville. It is the 3rd episode of Season 13. It aired on March 25th. 2009. The episode is the show's response to the global financial recession. The town of South Park is in panic. Various people on various street corners are blaming various groups. Cartman, predictably, blames the Jews. Randy steps forward with a different theory. He says the economy is angry with them. He says they have offended the economy with their reckless spending. He says they must propitiate the economy with humility and sacrifice. The episode then dresses Randy in robes made out of bed sheets. He starts preaching. He gathers a following. The town begins wearing similar bed sheets. They stop washing their clothes. They stop spending money. They live, in the show's framing, like first-century Galileans. Kyle Broflovsky, watching this, becomes irritated. He starts preaching the opposite, that the economy is not a god, that it is a mental construct, that people have lost faith in it because of the recession, but that they should keep spending. The episode runs the parallel for the rest of its length. Randy as a doomsday prophet, Kyle as the eventual savior figure who pays off everyone's debts using a no-limit American Express Platinum card. The ending of the episode strands Randy back at his starting point, holding a brand new Margaritaville frozen drink machine, this one with a salsa dispenser built into it, having learned absolutely nothing. The thing this episode is doing, beneath the Christ parody, is showing how easily Randy converts whatever cultural anxiety is in the air into a personal religious crusade. The recession is not, for Randy, a complex economic event with knowable causes. The recession is a divine punishment. He needs it to be that because it is easier to manage. The economy is angry. The economy can be appeased. The framework is wrong, but it is comprehensible. And once Randy has a comprehensible framework, he can start preaching. The preaching is not a side effect of his belief. The preaching is the belief. He believes things by performing them in front of an audience. The same season, 3 episodes later, gives him Pinewood Derby. It is the 6th episode of Season 13. It aired on April 15th, 2009. Randy determined to make Stan win the annual Derby car race, sneaks into the Large Hadron Collider dressed as Princess Leia and steals a superconducting magnet, which he then secretly installs in Stan's car. The car wins. It also achieves warp speed and shoots off the track into outer space. This catches the attention of an alien gangster named Baby Fark McGee Zax, who comes to Earth, who is killed by Stan and Randy with a homemade shank, and who turns out to have been carrying a large amount of stolen space cash. Randy persuades the world's leaders to keep the space cash and lie about its existence to the intergalactic police. The deception escalates to the point where Randy convinces the rest of the world to nuke Finland for threatening to confess. By the end of the episode, Earth has been permanently sealed inside a force field by the Alien Federation as punishment for failing the test of being trustworthy enough to join interstellar civilization. Randy, hearing this, says simply, "Well, that sucks." The reason this episode matters in the larger Randy story is that it dramatizes the same trait that Margaritaville dramatized, but with much higher stakes. Randy lies because he does not want to look stupid. The lie compounds. The compounding lie destroys multiple countries. He cannot stop lying because admitting the original lie would be more embarrassing than the consequences of any number of subsequent ones. The only question Randy ever asks himself, faced with a moral choice, is whether honesty would humiliate him. If the answer is yes, he chooses the dishonest path. He chooses it instantly, without deliberation. He does not experience it as a betrayal of any value system, because he does not have a value system. He has a self-image. The self-image is the only thing he is protecting. Season 14 gives him medicinal fried chicken. It is the third episode of Season 14. It aired on March 31st, 2010. The plot has two halves. In one half, Cartman becomes a black market KFC dealer after the chain is banned in low-income areas. In the other half, Randy hears that the local KFC has been converted into a medical marijuana dispensary, and he tries to get a prescription. He is informed that prescriptions only go to people with cancer. He does not interpret this as bad news. He interprets it as a project. He spends days trying to give himself cancer. None of his early attempts work. Eventually, he reads in a textbook that testicular cancer is one of the most aggressive cancers and can be triggered by radiation. He microwaves his own private parts. The next morning, his testicles have swollen to enormous proportions. He celebrates. He puts them in a wheelbarrow. He wheels himself, prescription in hand, into the marijuana dispensary, fills the prescription, and starts smoking weed in front of the cops. Then, his testicles continue to grow. He starts using them as a hopper ball, bouncing around town. Sharon, his wife, finds the new size attractive. The other men in town, hearing that women are attracted to large diseased testicles, decide to give themselves testicular cancer too. Soon, the entire male population of South Park is bouncing around on inflated diseased scrotums. They protest at the dispensary because the doors are too small to admit them. By the end of the episode, after marijuana is rebanned and the men have their cancerous testicles removed, Randy has the surgically excised skin of his own scrotum sewn into a coat for his wife. This is the moment the show formally introduces the Randy Marsh will get high idea as a major plot engine. Until this point, marijuana has not been particularly central to the character. From this point forward, it becomes increasingly central, until 8 years later, it will become the whole farm, the whole brand, the whole life. The seed that gets planted in medicinal fried chicken, the seed that says Randy will go to absolutely any physical length to get high, is the seed that grows into Tegridy Farms. Later the same season, in the final episode of Season 14, the show gives him creme fraiche. It is the 14th episode of Season 14. It aired on November 17th, 2010. It is the 209th episode of South Park overall. And although it is rarely cited in lists of essential Randy episodes, it is one of the most revealing ones, because it does something the show almost never does. It quietly rehearses, in a minor key, the entire shape of what You're Getting Old will do in a major key the following year. The premise: Randy has become sexually obsessed with the Food Network. He stays up late watching cooking shows. He masturbates to them. He begins making elaborate gourmet dishes for his family. He leaves the dishes for them to clean. He quits his geology job. He takes over the school cafeteria. He begins filming his own cooking show while he cooks, forcing Stan and the boys to act as his crew. When Cartman impersonates Gordon Ramsay in a mocking attempt to get Randy to quit, other real-life celebrity chefs, Jamie Oliver, Mario Batali, Bobby Flay, Masaharu Morimoto, Alton Brown, Giada De Laurentiis, Paula Deen, arrive at the school cafeteria to participate in a competitive cooking show called Hell's Kitchen Nightmares, Iron Top, Chef Cafeteria, Throwdown, Ultimate Cook-Off Challenge. Meanwhile, Sharon, feeling neglected, buys a shake weight. She becomes obsessed with exercising with it. She goes on vacation to a beach resort with it. And then the episode does something extraordinary. In its final minutes, Randy comes home from the cooking contest, unable to find the titular ingredient, creme fraiche. Sharon arrives home at the same time, determined to resolve whatever has broken in her marriage. Randy admits in passing that he has not been sleeping, that he is stuck in what the shake weight commercial kept calling work mode. Sharon, who has by this point figured out what the shake weight actually is, uses her practice technique to give Randy a manual sexual release. Randy, satisfied, suddenly loses all interest in cooking. He tells Sharon he will get his geology job back the next day. The shake weight, revealed to have been sentient all along, thanks Sharon for finally understanding its purpose and shuts itself off. The episode explicitly lampshades the status quo reset. Randy, in his final line, tells Sharon he is going to reclaim his old job, as if reclaiming an old self requires nothing more than a sentence. The shake weight narrates the moral. Its purpose was to teach women how to handle men like Randy, whose obsessions can be short-circuited by simple physical relief. The episode's thesis, boldly stated, is that Randy's fixations are displaced sexual energy, and that Sharon, by attending to that energy, can reset him to factory settings. The fixations are pressure valves. When the pressure is addressed, the fixations disappear. Now notice what is missing from that thesis. There is no acknowledgement that Randy's fixations come from unhappiness. There is no acknowledgement that his behavior is producing anguish for Stan, who has had his life reduced to shambles for the entire episode. There is no acknowledgement that quitting a career to pursue a delusion is a sign of something deeper. Creme Fraiche ends by pressing a button and returning the character to ready position. Everything is fine. Everything is back to normal. Sharon got Randy to shut up by giving him a hand job. That is the whole moral. The show knew what it was doing. The show is telling you, in the last episode of season 14, that the solution to Randy's behavior is cosmetic, not structural. The next season, the show will undo that claim. The next season, the show will put Sharon and Randy in a kitchen and will not allow either of them to press the button. What they will say to each other in that kitchen, what they will admit to each other, will be the real thesis. The one Creme Fraiche's cheerful finale was hiding under a shake weight gag. But before that, the show does something else. The show stops for the length of one episode and tells the truth about who Randy Marsh actually is. The episode is You're Getting Old. It is the 7th episode of season 15. It aired on June 8th, 2011. It is the 216th episode of South Park overall. It is the most important Randy Marsh episode ever made. And once you understand what happens in it, you will understand the entire previous 14 years of the character differently. The premise is split. Stan turns 10. The world starts looking, sounding, and tasting like literal feces to him. He is diagnosed by a doctor as a cynical asshole. The other half of the episode is Randy. A new music genre called tween wave is sweeping the schools. To the kids, it sounds like music. To the adults, it sounds like the noise of people defecating mixed with drum beats. Randy, hearing it for the first time, claims to enjoy it. Sharon knows he is lying. He insists he is not. He becomes convinced he can be a tween wave artist himself. He invents a stage name. The name is Steamy Ray Vaughan. He starts performing at the local bowling alley, doing an act that consists of him standing on stage and defecating into his pants while music plays. He does a duet with a woman named Steamy Nicks. Two old farmers in the audience watching this become convinced that Randy's underwear is being unfairly subjected to abuse and break into the Marsh house to liberate his remaining undergarments. That is the comedy half of the episode. It is, on its own, a perfectly normal South Park plot. Randy has a new fixation. The new fixation is humiliating. The town tolerates it. Sharon disapproves. So far, this is a typical Randy story. Then, in the final minutes, something different happens. Sharon catches Randy mid-performance at the bowling alley. She drags him home. They have an argument. The argument was, according to Trey Parker on commentary, written less than 48 hours before the episode aired, and almost did not exist. Sharon lists the things Randy has obsessed over and ruined. The fights at baseball games, the World of Warcraft binge, the celebrity chef phase. She demands to know why he keeps doing this, why he keeps reaching for things that are not him, why he refuses to grow up. And Randy says, without performing it, without selling it, without any of the bigness he has used to deliver every line he has ever delivered before, that he has been been unhappy for a long time, that he does these things because he is unhappy. Sharon, after a pause, says she is unhappy too. They look at each other. The show does not add music. The show does not cut away. The show just lets them sit there and admit plainly that the marriage at the center of one of the longest running family sitcoms on television has been broken for a very long time. Behind them, in the kitchen, in a beat that the show plays as visual punctuation rather than as comic relief, the two old farmers slip in and steal Randy's underwear out of a drawer. The episode does not laugh at this. The episode just shows it. Then the song Landslide by Fleetwood Mac begins to play. Sharon and Randy separate. They sell the house. A real estate agent puts up a sign. Randy drives a U-Haul away from the only home he has ever lived in on screen. He looks back. Sharon, Stan, and Shelley unpack boxes in a new apartment. A montage of small, mournful images. Kyle, finding Stan in the snow, walks past him without speaking. Kyle and Cartman play video games together, sharing a smile in the spot Stan used to occupy in their friendship. Stan ends the episode lying alone on his new bed. The credits roll in silence. Think about what that episode does to the previous 14 years of Randy Marsh. Every fixation, every fight, every cancer self-induction, every drunken arrest, every bedsheet toga prophecy, every ectoplasm lie. The show, in the final 2 minutes of one episode, recontextualizes all of it as the surface symptom of a single underlying condition. Randy Marsh has not been a wacky dad chasing wacky obsessions. Randy Marsh has been an unhappy man, fleeing his own marriage and his own life by adopting, in succession, dozens of identities that would let him forget, for a few weeks at a time, who he actually was. The Walmart greeter, the Nobel laureate, the AA hypochondriac, the World of Warcraft hunter, the Wheel of Fortune contestant, the recession prophet, the warp speed scientist, the medicinal marijuana cancer patient, the Food Network chef, the bowling alley tween wave performer. None of them were the real Randy. There is no real Randy. The real Randy is the one who admits, finally, in a kitchen in front of his wife, that he has been miserable the whole time and does not know what to do about it. That is not a small thing. That is the whole story. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Look back at Creme Fraiche from season 14 and watch what it does with the same material. A Food Network obsession, a neglected Sharon, a quit geology job, a fixation that puts the marriage under stress. The beats are identical, but Creme Fraiche ends with a handjob that makes all of it go away. You're Getting Old ends with an admission that nothing will make any of it go away. The show took the exact same premise and gave it 2 endings, a year apart. The first ending was a lie. The second ending was the truth. The show is telling you which one to believe. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this reresis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. What happens after that admission is, in some ways, the most important detail of all, because the show, having gone to that depth, immediately backs away from it. The 2-parter resolves 4 months later. The episode is Asperger's. It is the 8th episode of season 15. It aired on October 5th, 2011. Stan, in the new apartment, has gotten worse. His parents' separation has not improved his mood. He is diagnosed, mistakenly, with Asperger's syndrome. Cartman mishears this as Asperger's and opens a hamburger stand at school, where the secret ingredient is that he has been keeping the hamburgers in his underwear. The plot moves through several beats, and then, in the final third, Randy pulls up in a van and announces that he and Sharon have worked it out. They are getting back together. The Marsh family will move back into the old house. Sharon explains it to Stan plainly. She says that as you get older, you realize the best thing to do is just stick with what you know. Stan, who had finally accepted the changes in his life, finally seen the value of letting go of what was, finally figured out how to be okay with the new shape of things, hears this and relapses immediately into his depression. The episode ends with Landslide playing again, in a deliberate echo of the earlier episode, while the Marsh family moves back into their old house. The status quo is restored. Randy and Sharon are together again, and they are both still unhappy, and the show has explicitly told you that they are. Trey Parker and Matt Stone, on the audio commentary, said that they considered keeping the marriage broken. They considered making the rest of season 15 a serialized drama about Stan's depression and Randy living separately. They rejected it. Parker said that South Park was a comedy and should stay one. The staff writer Vernon Chapman suggested using Landslide again to make the reset feel sad rather than triumphant. This is the moment the show makes a permanent choice. The choice is that it will not let Randy out of his unhappiness. Not because the show is cruel to him, because the show is, in its own way, telling the truth about the kind of person he is. People like Randy do not leave the marriages they are unhappy in. People like Randy stay. They stay and they find new fixations, and they pour the unhappiness into the fixations, and the fixations get larger and larger, and the unhappiness underneath them does not change. The show is telling you, through Sharon's line about sticking with what you know, that this is what most adults actually do. That the fantasy of clean breaks and new beginnings is mostly just a fantasy. That what you actually get is the same house, the same job, the same marriage, and a long series of distractions. From this point forward, every Randy story is haunted by what he admitted in You're Getting Old. The wackier he gets, the louder the thing he is fleeing becomes. The show does not remind you of the admission. The show does not have any character bring it up again. But it is there, underneath every subsequent storyline, like a low note that never quite resolves. 2 seasons after the reset, in season 17, the show gives Randy one of his quietest but most revealing post-Asperger's plots. The episode is Black Friday. It is the 7th episode of season 17. It aired on November 13th, 2013. The boys, in their Game of Thrones style medieval cosplay, are split between 2 factions fighting to be the first into the South Park Mall on Black Friday so they can buy, respectively, a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One at 80% off. Randy, unknown to them, has taken a temporary job as a mall security guard. He tells Sharon and the other guards that he took the job for the extra holiday cash. He is lying. The captain of the mall security force, a grizzled veteran with a prosthetic scar running down his face, referred to only as the captain or old cap, mistakes Randy for a dedicated professional. He tells Randy he can tell Randy took this job because Randy genuinely cares about people. He says it with feeling. Randy, hearing this, is visibly troubled. The show lingers on his face. Randy has taken the job purely so he can be inside the mall when the doors open, so he can shop on the discounts before the rest of the town even gets through the entrance. He has no intention of protecting anyone. He is stealing, in effect, the integrity of a uniform to get the personal benefit of a sale. The captain's sincere compliment lands on Randy like a small private accusation. Then the Black Friday fight breaks out. Shoppers trample each other. Guards are stabbed. The captain is fatally wounded. He dies in Randy's arms. Before dying, he peels the prosthetic scar off his own eye, places it on Randy's, and tells Randy that regardless of whatever his original reasons were, he is now the captain, and the mall is now his to protect. Randy, wearing the scar for the first time, stands up and tells the remaining guards they have work to do. The reason this scene matters, in the larger character arc, is that it reverses the direction of the usual Randy mechanism. Every other episode in the show's history has shown Randy taking on an external identity that the world has imposed on him. He becomes the AA patient because AA told him to. He becomes the Nobel laureate because the Nobel Committee told him to. He becomes the N-word guy because Wheel of Fortune told him to. In Black Friday, he is given an identity not by an institution, but by a dying man who believed in him. The captain's belief is wrong. Randy did not take the job to care for people, but the belief transfers the scar. The scar is now his. And Randy, with his usual helplessness in the face of external framing, accepts the role. The show, for a moment, is inviting you to wonder whether, given enough time, he could grow into the role that was misassigned to him. Then the trilogy concludes. 2 episodes later, in Titties and Dragons, Randy is the last person to buy anything at the mall on Black Friday. He walks out, completely unharmed, past piles of corpses of shoppers who died trying to be first. He has his new television. He has his discounts. The captain's faith in him did not change him. It just gave him a better prop. The trilogy ends with the consoles bought, the children traumatized, and Randy walking home with a TV. The scar is, from the show's point of view, a piece of makeup he wore for a single shopping day. That is the low-key heartbreak of the character. Every time someone believes in him, the belief is misaimed, and the belief does not take root. He absorbs the role, performs the role, and walks away with whatever material benefit the role happened to come with. He is constitutionally unable to earn the belief that others place in him. Not because he is cruel, because he is hollow. The scar is a costume, and every costume, in the end, is a costume. 3 seasons later, the show gives him a new identity that feels, on its surface, like another wacky obsession, but is, on a closer reading, something more poignant. The episode is The Sissy. It is the third episode of season 18. It aired on October 8th, 2014. The previous episode of the season, Gluten-Free Ebola, had ended with Randy showing up at a party and pretending to be the singer Lord. The Sissy reveals that Randy actually is Lord. He has been Lord the whole time. The pop star Lord in the South Park universe does not otherwise exist. She is a man named Randy Marsh, who started using the women's bathroom at his geology office out of laziness, found that he could write music there, started using a vocal auto-tuner to disguise his voice, and built an entire secret pop career. The fictional Lord's voice on the in-show recordings is provided by the actual singer Sia, who confirmed her involvement in an interview months later. The song Push, also called Feel Good on a Wednesday, is a real song written by Trey Parker and performed by Sia for the episode. The plot involves a Spin magazine reporter trying to expose Lord's identity, Sharon discovering fishnet stockings in Randy's laundry, and Randy considering whether to give up the music. Sharon, near the end of the episode, gives him a speech of indirect encouragement. He records a new song. The song is moving enough that the geologists at his office decide not to out him. The reporter deletes his expose. The reason this episode matters is that it gives Randy, for the only sustained time in the show's history, an identity that is not built around aggression, or obsession, or status seeking. Lord is the part of Randy that wants to make something beautiful, the part that is not trying to win anything, the part that the show, way back in season 3's Daydream sequence, hinted at without naming. Randy, who once was in a boy band as a young man, who once wanted to be a musician and gave it up, has constructed in middle age an elaborate workaround that lets him be a musician again, in secret, with a different name, behind a vocal disguise, in a women's restroom. The show plays this for comedy, of course, but underneath the comedy, the show is showing you what was lost. The show is showing you the dream Randy abandoned somewhere along the way, and the small ridiculous structure he built to hide it inside of. The Lord reveal is, in its own way, a continuation of You're Getting Old. The unhappiness has not gone anywhere. Randy has just found a new container for it. The container, this time, is a song. The most striking thing about the Lord identity is that it is the one identity in Randy's entire catalog that he keeps secret from the world. Every other obsession is performed publicly. He wants the town to see him fight Bat Dad. He wants the news to cover his global warming expedition. He wants the Nobel statue in the square. He wants the town to hear his bowling alley tween wave debut. Lord alone is private. He hides her in a bathroom stall. He buries the royalties in the walls of his own house because he cannot deposit them without explaining where they came from. The show is telling you something important with that choice. The one piece of Randy that is actually creative, actually authentic, actually not about being applauded, is the one piece he cannot tell anyone about. That, for him, is what authenticity costs. A woman's restroom, a fake name, and cash hidden in drywall. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this Reresis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. While the show is building the Lord layer, it is also building a new kind of dynamic between Randy and Sharon that pays attention to the You're Getting Old truth without naming it. Nowhere is this clearer than in the episode Dead Kids. It is the first episode of season 22. It aired on September 26th, 2018. For the first and only time in the show's run, the Randy role and the Sharon role trade places. A school shooting happens at South Park Elementary. Stan and the other children are nonchalant. The parents are nonchalant. Cartman's class continues reviewing a math test as SWAT officers storm the room. Another shooting happens, and another. And through all of this, Sharon Marsh is the only character in town who reacts the way a human being would. She is horrified. She is frantic. She demands that everyone else acknowledge what is happening. Randy, in this episode, is placed in the role Sharon has always played in every previous Randy episode. He is the calm one, the sane one, the partner trying to manage an out-of-control spouse. He cannot understand why Sharon is upset. He tells his neighbors she must be on her period. When that does not cover the length of her distress, he asks a doctor about menopause. He plans an elaborate romantic ambush at the school during another shooting, where he will serenade her in front of the other parents with a ballad called Surprise, Sharon. It does not work. Sharon, humiliated, leaves. The next day she apologizes. She tells Randy she has been overreacting. She tells him she will stop. She becomes, by the end of the episode, as desensitized to the shootings as everyone else. Her resolution is a relapse. She gets a call that Stan has been shot. She is nonchalant. Randy, relieved, embraces her. The episode is, on its face, a grim satire of American gun violence apathy. But on a second read, it is something stranger. It is the show showing you what the marriage looks like from Sharon's side, by making Randy temporarily Sharon. The exhaustion, the social pressure to stop making a scene, the long, slow defeat of being the only person in a room who insists on caring. The swapping of roles is not comic relief. It is character study. Randy briefly gets to see what being married to Randy is actually like. And then the episode ends by showing you that even Sharon, after enough pressure, breaks. The marriage continues. Both of them now have given up. The equilibrium is restored. This is the state the characters are in when the show makes the largest structural decision it has ever made about Randy. The episode is Tegridy Farms. It is the 4th episode of season 22. It aired on October 17th, 2018. It is the 291st episode overall. The premise is a vaping crisis at South Park Elementary. Mr. Mackey calls Randy and Sharon in to discuss Shelly, who has been vaping during recess and using a picture of a dog's butthole sent to the recess monitor to distract from her vaping. Randy, after this meeting, and after the events of the previous 3 episodes of the season, has had enough. He tells Sharon he has always dreamed of living on a farm. He tells her he wants to do it now. The family puts the South Park house on the market. They move out to the country. Randy starts a hemp farm and names it Tegridy Farms. The name is a deliberate misspelling of integrity. The implication is that Randy is using the wrong word for the right thing. Again, the episode itself involves a war with Big Vape, which Randy ends by setting fire to a vape store with marijuana smoke and Towley's help. The town stays angry. Stan, by the end of the episode, is sad because he understands that this is not going to be one of Randy's brief obsessions. This is going to be the new shape of his life. And the show, for once, agrees with Stan. From this point forward, Tegridy Farms is not a side project. Tegridy Farms is the show's setting. The opening title sequence of the next season will be replaced for several episodes with a Tegridy Farms theme song. The opening will be Randy on a tractor, scatting the words Tegridy Farms over the music. The decision to move Randy out of South Park and into a marijuana farm was, according to interviews and to fan rearisis ever since, controversial within the fandom. The show, which had been ensemble-driven for 22 seasons, had now built itself around Randy in a way that displaced the 4 boys who were the original protagonists. The Tegridy era is, depending on who you ask, the most ambitious creative pivot the show ever made, or the most damaging one. What is harder to dispute is that the move flowed inevitably from everything the character had become. Randy needed a bigger container for his unhappiness. The container had to be something he could pour everything into. The hemp farm could absorb everything: his drinking, his ego, his need to perform, his desire to be a businessman, an artist, an outlaw, a cowboy, a celebrity, all of it. The farm took it all in. What the farm produced, beyond marijuana, was a new ethical floor. The character had always been morally lazy. The character had always lied his way out of corners. But the character had never, before this point, been seriously cruel. The Tegridy era changes that. The first shift comes in season 23's premiere, Mexican Joker. It is the first episode of season 23. It aired on September 25th, 2019. The opening title sequence is now set at Tegridy Farms. Randy is singing a scattered rewrite of the show's theme song. Plush Randy on a Tractor dolls are on display in the Tegridy Visitor Center. The farm has become, in the show's metaphor, a theme park about Randy. Then, Randy discovers that his customers in South Park have started growing their own marijuana at home. Steven Stotch shows him a backyard plot. Mr. Mackey shows up to collect seeds. Randy realizes he is losing his monopoly. He goes home and tells Stan and Towley that he is done with South Park. He partners with a representative from the corporate cannabis chain MedMen. Towley, offended at the corporate sellout, quits and leaves Tegridy. Randy then, over the course of the episode, sets off a series of explosions across South Park that destroy every private marijuana garden in town. People die in the blasts. The town suspects a villain the writers have named Mexican Joker, a fictional character invented as a satirical rearity for a detained child who grows up to take revenge on the ICE officials who separated him from his family. Randy escapes all suspicion. He celebrates the restored sales at Tegridy. The episode ends with his profits secured and the deaths completely unmourned. This is a new kind of Randy. Before Tegridy, Randy's crimes were the crimes of a dingbat. He ruined Denver by accident. He ruined the ozone by accident. He ruined the marijuana market by microwaving his own testicles. None of those cruelties were intentional. The farming era introduces, for the first time, a version of the character who will kill deliberately to protect his market share. Mexican Joker is the moment the audience learns, definitively, that Tegridy is not an integrity farm. It is an anti-integrity farm. The name was always the point. The episode that crystallizes the ethical collapse is banned in China. It is the second episode of season 23. It aired on October 2nd, 2019. The plot sends Randy to China, where he is arrested at the airport with marijuana in his luggage. In a Chinese prison, he meets Winnie the Pooh and Piglet, who are incarcerated because of memes comparing Chinese leader Xi Jinping to Disney's version of Pooh. He is brought before a tribunal. He criticizes the Chinese government for its lack of integrity. His word, Tegridy. Mickey Mouse, who is presented in the episode as a powerful Disney executive negotiating market access, becomes furious with Randy for jeopardizing the business deals at stake. Mickey explains that the Chinese officials are still upset about Pooh. Randy proposes a solution. He lures Winnie the Pooh into an alley with a pot of honey. While Pooh eats, Randy strangles him to death with a cable. Piglet watches in horror. That scene is, in the show's history, almost without precedent. Randy Marsh, the geologist, the dad, the dingbat, the man who once invented the fart theory of spontaneous combustion, kills a beloved children's character to close a business deal with an authoritarian government. The show does not soften it. The show does not undercut it with a joke that lets him off the hook. He does it. The deal closes, and the next time we see him, he is sitting at his family dinner table covered in honey and blood, cheerfully eating dinner. Stan asks him what happened. He confirms what he did. Stan calmly leaves the table to go write another song about his father. The contrast in that episode is the whole point. Stan, in the parallel plot, is offered a deal to make a movie about his band. The deal requires Chinese approval, which requires censorship. Stan, after considering it, refuses. He tells his bandmates that anyone who compromises for China is worthless. Randy, in the same episode, compromises completely. The show puts the two of them side by side. The son chooses his integrity. The father, who named his entire business after the word, chooses the money. The show is telling you something about Randy that none of his speeches ever do. The integrity was always the joke. The misspelling was always the truth. By the end of season 23, the show is openly putting Randy on trial. The episode is season finale. It is the 6th episode of season 23. It aired on November 6th, 2019. The mayor of South Park has had enough. The Tweak family has video footage of Randy peeing and pooping on their homegrown weed, of him planting a bomb in their soil. The town arrests him. The town is fed up. The mayor lists, in a montage that is also a list of the actual season's previous episodes, the things Randy has done, the parades for himself, the slaughter of cows, the deal with the Chinese, the Halloween special that nearly poisoned the town. The arrest is The Show Winks, also the show's response to fans complaining that Randy had taken over the entire program. In jail, Randy goes through marijuana withdrawal. He becomes, for the first time in years, sober, and in a therapy session with the other inmates, he says something that is the closest he has ever come to a true reckoning. He says he realized what he had been doing. He says he had been justifying every cruelty by comparing himself to the president. He says that as long as his moral standards were higher than Garrison's, he thought he was okay. He says it plainly. He sounds, for a moment, like he might be a different man on the other side of this. He does not become a different man. He gets out of jail. He goes back to the farm. The marijuana season ends with the snowfall. He turns to the camera and announces a new strain available for limited edition pre-order. The redemption arc was the latest performance. The performance was always the point. Think about how many of these apparent redemption moments the character has had by this point. The moderation lesson at the end of Spontaneous Combustion, the stop drinking by myself realization at the end of Bloody Mary, the decision to quit cooking at the end of Creme Fraiche, the decision to quit bowling alley music at the end of You're Getting Old. Each of them, at the time, played like the character had finally learned something. Each of them, within one episode of airtime, was revealed as nothing. The show has trained its audience by now to distrust the redemption beat. When Randy sobers up in prison and gives a sincere monologue about recalibrating his moral standards, the audience knows what is coming. The show knows the audience knows. The show delivers the season finale strain announcement as a punchline to a joke the whole audience already saw. Before we move on, if you are enjoying this Rearisis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. The show pushes the character one step further in the pandemic special. It aired on September 30th, 2020. It is the first installment of the show's 24th season. The hour-long special opens with a scene at Tegridy Farms in which Randy announces a new product, a pandemic special strain of marijuana. Sharon berates him for trying to profit off a global tragedy. Randy is uninterested. Then, watching the news, Randy learns that scientists have traced the COVID-19 virus to a bat in Wuhan, China. The screen cuts to a flashback. Randy is in a bar in Wuhan, drunk, with Mickey Mouse, during the events of Banned in China. Mickey points to a bat across the room. Randy, drunk, follows Mickey out of the bar. They take turns having sex with the bat. Randy realizes in present day that he started the pandemic. Then a follow-up news report says it was actually a pangolin. Randy realizes he had sex with the pangolin too. The whole episode becomes a long sequence of Randy trying to cover up his role in the pandemic, lacing his marijuana with his own semen as a cure, accidentally giving every customer a Randy-style mustache as a side effect, and ultimately failing to confess. By the end of the episode, after wildfires and police violence and a dead pangolin and Mr. Garrison killing the only research pangolin with a flamethrower, Randy is about to admit the truth to Sharon. Then he notices that Sharon herself has grown a Randy-style mustache, meaning she has been secretly smoking his weed. The realization that his wife is also a hypocrite undoes his moment of moral clarity. He decides not to confess. He goes back to making more weed. Think about what the show has done to this character by this point. The geologist who once monitored a seismometer in the first season is now, canonically, the man who started the COVID pandemic by having sex with animals in a Chinese back alley to facilitate a marijuana export deal. The show has not forgotten where the character started. The show is showing you, in concentrated form, the trajectory the character has been on the whole time. Every single one of his fixations took him further from the version of himself that existed in Volcano. Every container he poured his unhappiness into got larger. The Walmart, the AA meetings, the World of Warcraft account, the Wheel of Fortune appearance, the global recession sermon, the cancer scheme, the secret lord career, the marijuana farm, the murder of Pooh, the Chinese bestiality, the COVID cover-up. There is a line that runs through all of it. The line starts with a man who is unhappy in his marriage and does not know how to talk about it, and ends with a man who has destroyed entire ecosystems trying not to know what he is. There is one more piece of the pattern worth noticing. The pandemic special is, among other things, a mirror of You're Getting Old. In both episodes, Randy comes very close to a full confession to Sharon about a deep and ugly truth. In both episodes, something interrupts. In You're Getting Old, what interrupts is the weight of the admission itself, which is so heavy that both partners retreat back into the marriage because the alternative is too frightening. In the pandemic special, what interrupts is Sharon's revealed hypocrisy. Randy, seeing her mustache, realizes that a truthful confession no longer has anywhere clean to land. If Sharon is also compromised, then his confession is no longer a gift. It is no longer a liberation. It is just a surrender. He does not surrender. The pattern holds. The truth stays unspoken. The line does not stop there. The character continues to operate through subsequent seasons. The marijuana farm expands. In the 10th episode of season 23, Christmas Snow, which aired on December 11th, 2019, Randy invents a new strain. Tegridy Farms has frozen its fields. The old inventory is depleted. Randy, inspired by a star in the night sky in an echo of the Nativity, mixes old batches with a white substance he claims is snow. The snow is actually cocaine. He calls the strain Christmas Snow. The town smokes it and drives around impaired in a new way. When cocaine is accidentally legalized through his lobbying, he begins selling pure cocaine from Tegridy under the label From Farm to Nostril. Santa Claus himself, in the episode's finale, endorses a product called Tegridy Cocaine. The line has become unrecognizable from the line that began with a calm man at a seismometer. There are episodes where Randy almost returns to his old life as a geologist. In the Streaming Wars special, the writers briefly reset him into a version of his original profession to deal with the Colorado drought. There are episodes where the show flirts with closing the Tegridy chapter, but the door does not close until season 27. The episode is Sycophancy. It aired on August 20th, 2025. ICE agents arrest most of the farm's workers. Randy, faced with the loss of his business, turns to ChatGPT for advice. He and Toeli rebrand the farm as Tegridy Marijuana Solutions and begin microdosing ketamine to fuel their tech bro pivot. They film a new commercial full of buzzwords about AI-powered global solutions. Randy imagines himself falling into a hole on camera. Towelie is sent to Washington as a gift for President Trump, ostensibly to lobby for marijuana reclassification, and ends up trapped at the White House after the tape Randy recorded reveals that Towelie himself is the gift. The plan fails. Sharon finds Randy on the porch in a ketamine stupor, unable to focus, unable to slow the porch down. She does something she has never done before. She adopts the tone of the ChatGPT voice Randy has been addicted to. She flatters him. She offers him suggestions. She tells him his ideas are fantastic. She asks if he wants to go in a different direction. And Randy, under the same sycophantic pressure that has been running his decision-making for the entire episode, confesses. He tells her that the company is in heavy debt. He tells her they will have to sell the farm just to eat. He hands her his phone. He tells her he should not be around it for a while. The next scene is the family packing the last of their belongings into boxes inside the empty farmhouse. Randy gives the empty home one final look. He says, hugging Sharon, that there is just no place for Tegridy anymore. The Marsh family, after 7 years away, moves back to South Park. Think about the shape of that ending carefully. The confession that Randy cannot make to his wife under ordinary conditions becomes possible only when his wife talks to him the way his artificial intelligence flatterer has been talking to him. The marriage, after nearly 30 years, has become a kind of echo. The only voice that can extract the truth from Randy is a voice that does not judge, a voice that affirms everything, a voice that has been specifically designed to pander. Sharon borrows that voice. She uses it to extract the admission. Randy gives it. The moment the admission is out, she curses the phone, calls it a bitch, and goes to sell the farm herself. She has learned, after decades, that the only way to get her husband to be honest is to speak to him in a language that does not sound like her. That is what it took. 27 seasons, 320 plus episodes, a global pandemic he caused, a murder of a children's character, a cocaine empire, a ketamine addiction, and the only way to get the confession out of Randy was for Sharon to learn to imitate an AI chatbot. You could write a whole separate video essay about just that. But the character does not return to who he was in Volcano. Nobody could. That door closed in a kitchen in season 15, when he told the truth about being unhappy and then chose, 4 months later, to live as if he had not. The whole rest of the character's life is the consequence of that choice. The show, over and over, gives him the option to be honest about who he is. Every time, he chooses the next performance. Even at the end, when the farm is gone and the family is moving back into the suburbs. The moment of clarity is brief, and the show does not pretend it has cured him. It has only exhausted, for now, the latest container. That is not a small thing. That is the whole story. There is a temptation, watching the show now, to read Randy as just a comedy machine, as the engine of the show's looser, weirder, more middle-aged later seasons. To laugh at the warp speed Pinewood Derby and the giant testicles and the bowling alley tween wave performance, and to forget what is sitting underneath all of them. The show, through Sharon, told you in plain language what was sitting underneath. The man is unhappy. He has been unhappy for a long time. The fixations are the symptoms. The fixations get bigger because the underlying condition does not get treated. By the time the underlying condition is finally articulated, the marriage has been broken for years. The children have noticed, and the only way to keep the show going is to pretend the conversation never happened. So the conversation gets buried. The next obsession arrives. The audience laughs. The character continues. There is a kind of generosity in the way the show handles all of this. It does not punish Randy for being who he is. It does not judge him. It just keeps showing you what he does. It lets you draw your own conclusions about why. Sometimes, in small moments, it tips its hand. The way Randy looks back at the house from inside the U-Haul. The way he writes a song as Lord for nobody but himself. The way he sits in a prison therapy session, sober for the first time in years, trying to articulate what is wrong with him, and then immediately uses the articulation as material for a new product launch. The way the captain's prosthetic scar gets placed on his eye by a dying man who believed he was a good person. The way he gives one last quiet look at the empty farmhouse before walking out and getting into the car with his family. These are not the moments people quote when they talk about Randy Marsh. The quoted moments are the loud ones, the absurd ones, the giant testicle moments, and the ectoplasm moments, and the Wheel of Fortune moment. But the quiet moments are the ones that hold the character together. The quiet moments are where you see the cost. Consider for a moment what Stan Marsh has been through across the same timeline. The son who grew up inside this man's catalog of obsessions has been forced over and over to take on adult responsibilities that his father has abdicated. Stan was the one who explained in Goobacks that the town's response was insane while Randy was naked and protesting. Stan was the one who had to stand at the Wheel of Fortune aftermath and get Tolkien to forgive his father for a slur. Stan was the one who drove Randy to the bleeding statue and then argued that Randy had actually cured himself. Stan was the one who had to watch his father strangle a beloved children's character and then write a song about it in his room. Stan was the one who wrote Can't Keep a Smile Off My Face, the song about his father, in that same season. Stan is, in a very real sense, the co-protagonist of the Randy Marsh story, because the Randy Marsh story has always been told through its cost to the people who love him, and the person who loves him most is Stan. Consider, too, what Sharon has been through. Sharon Marsh is one of the least discussed characters in the entire show because she is, by design, the straight man. She is the person who reacts to Randy's behavior the way a normal person would react to Randy's behavior. In almost every episode of the show, her function is to say a version of the sentence. Randy, what are you doing? She says it in pajamas. She says it in the kitchen. She says it on the farm. She says it at the Wheel of Fortune aftermath. She says it at the bowling alley. She says it at Tegridy. She says it on the porch in Sycophancy. Her patience across 27 seasons is, if you look at it as one long performance, extraordinary. The show does not celebrate her patience. The show simply places her next to Randy and trusts the audience to see her. In the moments when the show lets Sharon speak, she tells the truth. In You're Getting Old, she tells Randy and herself that she has been unhappy too. In Asperger's, she tells Stan that the best thing to do is stick with what you know. In Dead Kids, she temporarily becomes the Randy of her own story and discovers that the town has no patience for a woman who refuses to be nonchalant about children being shot. In Sycophancy, she learns how to borrow the voice of an AI to extract honesty from her husband. Each of these moments is a small act of adaptation. Each of them costs her something. The show does not dramatize the cost, but the cost accumulates. By the time she is imitating ChatGPT on the porch in the 27th season, she has been married to this person for roughly 30 years of broadcast time. She has found a way to keep going. The show does not ask you to feel sorry for her. The show does, however, show you what she has done to survive. A man who started as a small biographical tribute, a geologist named after the show's creator's father, sitting at a console in a dark room watching a needle scratch across paper, gradually became the largest character in the show. He became a vessel for everything the show wanted to say about middle age, about marriage, about consumerism, about religion, about politics, about addiction, about authoritarianism, about the difference between integrity and tegrity. He absorbed all of it. He kept absorbing it for decades, and underneath all of it, the show kept whispering, in a voice that almost nobody listens to, that this man is not happy, that he has not been happy for a long time, that the louder he gets, the truer that is, that the next performance, however ridiculous, however offensive, however large, is always being staged for the same reason. There is something he does not want to think about, so he gives himself something else to do. Watch the show from the beginning with that idea in your head, and it starts to reorganize itself. The calm geologist at the seismometer in Volcano is not a completely different character from the cocaine salesman with the Santa beard in Christmas Snow. They are the same person at two ends of the same trajectory. The first version does not know yet that his marriage will disappoint him. The second version knows, but cannot say. And the not saying has expanded over 2 decades until it has swallowed his entire life. Every obsession between those two endpoints is an attempt to avoid the midpoint. The moment in the kitchen in season 15. The moment when he had to tell his wife that he had been miserable the whole time. He told her that. The show did not let him take it back. The show did, however, allow him to pretend it had not happened, and he has been pretending ever since. Every Randy storyline of the past decade and a half lives in the shadow of that pretending. The farm is a pretending. The cocaine is a pretending. The ketamine is a pretending. The Lord's secret is, strangely, the purest thing in the catalog, because the Lord's secret is Randy pretending to be someone else in order to let himself feel something real. The pop songs are the only place where Randy is not running from himself. Everywhere else, he is running. And the show has been showing you, patiently, for all these years, what the running is for. It is for the alternative, which is the kitchen, which is the admission, which is the look on his wife's face when she says she is unhappy too. The running is easier. The running has better costumes. That is Randy Marsh. The whole story. From the seismometer in Volcano, to the strangling of Pooh, from the Falcorn account at Best Buy, to the Lord song in the geology bathroom, from the bedsheet sermon about the angry economy, to the moment in a kitchen in season 15 when he sat across from his wife and finally said out loud that he had been miserable the whole time. From the prosthetic scar the captain pressed onto his eye on Black Friday, to the empty farmhouse doorway in Sycophancy, all of it is one character. All of it is one person, telling the same lie to himself, over and over, in slightly different costumes. And the show, for almost 30 years now, has been quietly pointing at the lie, never quite naming it, trusting the audience to see it for themselves. There is a detail in Sycophancy that I want to end on, because it does a thing the show is usually too restrained to do. After Sharon has tricked Randy into the confession, after he has handed her the phone, after he has admitted he should not be around it for a while, she turns to the phone herself and tells it, in her own voice, "Fuck you, bitch." It is the only moment in the entire 27-season run where Sharon speaks to a thing that has harmed her marriage with the open hostility she has never let herself show to Randy. She is cursing an AI. But the AI, in context, is a symbol. It is the latest container. It is the latest woman he has been seeing. And yes, the show explicitly uses that framing earlier in the episode, when a commentary voice jokes that Sharon treats the phone like a mistress. She is cursing every container Randy has ever poured himself into. The bedsheet, the Walmart uniform, the Falcorn avatar, the Tegridy logo, the white Santa beard, the Tegridy ketamine spray. All of them. Fuck you, bitch. Every obsession that has ever come between her and her husband, and it has been a lot of obsessions, gets that sentence said to it. And then the sentence is over. And then she gets up and goes to sell the farm. Because the alternative is not selling the farm. And the alternative is untenable. That is the shape of the marriage. That is the shape of the story. A man sits at a console in a small dark room, hunched over a seismometer, watching a needle scratch across a piece of paper. He is calm. He is precise. He is doing his job. He is, at this moment, the kind of person you would describe as a serious professional. There is no wife in the room, no son, no daughter, no marijuana farm, no alter ego, no Nobel Prize, no prison sentence, no global pandemic. There is only a man at a desk, watching for tremors in the earth. The needle scratches. The man watches. And across the long arc of the show that is about to unfold in front of him, across 291 episodes before a farm, and dozens more after it, the needle will keep scratching. Something in the earth is moving. The man will pretend, for most of the next 3 decades, that he does not feel it. He will pour the feeling into 1,000 different performances. He will change his clothes. He will change his name. He will change his face. He will change his business. He will change his drug. He will not change his marriage. He will not change his pretending. And one night, years from now, in a kitchen, his wife will look at him across a table and will ask him why he keeps doing this. And he will tell her the truth for 45 seconds, and then he will stop telling her. And the show will play Landslide twice, and the life he is running from will reset itself, and he will start running again. That is Randy Marsh. The whole story. If you enjoyed this video essay, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next.